behavioral, they start behaving in a very, very peculiar manner. They become abusive, they shout, and which they have never done in their life. The whole family is perplexed that why this gentleman or my mother is shouting so much, abusing so much, using foul language, passing stool everywhere in the house. It is not their fault. We are disturbed because this is happening. Caring is a big challenge with a capital B, capital I, and a capital G. Needs 24/7 by 365 support. इसको आगे करो. Just a second. Okay. Now the caregivers are the persons who are caring for the dementia patients, and they can be family caregivers or the professional caregivers. But remember, they are the lifeline of these patients. Family caregivers, they can be spouse, which is most common, daughter, daughters-in-law, son, brother, siblings, and grandchildren. I'm really surprised and happy to see the grandchildren, the younger generation, coming into the forefront, trying to understand the disease and lend a hand of support to their grandparents. In our society, in our Alzheimer's home, we have a 9-year-old girl who is caring for her grandmother. She used to come every day to pick up her grandmother and take interest in all the activities she used to do during the day. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the daycare services have been suspended, and she is the one who is caring for her grandmother at home. Of course, these caregivers, whether it's spouse or siblings or anybody, they are really stressed. Stress is a very small word for them. They run short of time. Their day turns out to be not 24 hours, it stretches to 36 hours. And even that is less. Ever increasing commitment of time, the psychological pain, they lose the person before actually losing the person. The mother becomes a daughter, daughter becomes a mother, sister becomes a, some outsider, son becomes an intruder. So all these things are very, very disturbing. Physical effort is involved in changing them, giving them bath. The cost of the care, cost of the medication and engaging anybody in the house is extremely high. Role changes, you become a mother to your own mother. Ever increasing demands. And believe me, this COVID has played havoc with the caregivers and the patients of Alzheimer's disease. Earlier, the families used to go for work. Now it is going on that it is work from home. Elders are not used to seeing their children all the time at home. And the children, when they used to go to the office, they used to forget about the illness for some time, So it is stressful for the children, stressful for the parents, and a lot of challenges are there for the caregivers, like isolation. They get isolated from the family, from the friends. Eating and bathing of the patient is the biggest challenge which they face. Why they face that? Over the years, we have analyzed that. Because when you start feeding the patients, the Alzheimer's patient, their dignity is always intact. That is the last to go. just before their breath. So they feel embarrassed that why he is trying to feed me, and they stop eating. Other things, their muscles become weak and they forget to chew, forget to swallow. Those are later things. Then bathing again that is a bigger challenge than eating. When you are bathing a person, they feel that their privacy is being intruded, and they feel very restless and they start shouting, they resist the bathing. And I always solve this problem by explaining it to the caregivers that just talk to them that now we are going to have a bath and we will go to the market or to a wedding after this. Okay. Now slowly you remove your own clothes by yourself and I will hold a curtain. So hold a small towel so that you can see them, and but they cannot. Just maintain their dignity. Once their clothes have been removed, cover them with a very thin cotton dupatta so that they feel that yes, they are covered, and then give them the soap, give them the water, and ask them to apply the soap as long as they can. Don't try to put the body wash on them or rub them. uh, Leave them independent as long as you can, because this will lessen your stress and lessen their stress also and their aggression also. Of course, other challenges are your burnout, which all caregivers, they do not even realize that they have broken down. Financial strain, I have already spoken, and there is no support system, a solid support system which can come in to help the caregivers who are caring for the patients at home. What we are doing is we have formed a support group on the WhatsApp. So every day, any challenge which the caregivers are facing, they message it to us. And anybody, it's a global group. So anybody from anywhere all over the world can reply to it. And because they are all in the same boat and fighting the same crisis. I'll very briefly give you an example that somebody gave a message that my father is becoming very weak because he has stopped taking almonds and everything. So somebody from New York, she sent in a recipe by almond powder. That's a very sweet recipe. And that was working for a few months. Then they suggest the various supplements. So this is such a wonderful group, and Mr. Sabharwal is a very active member of this group. So we try to solve all the problems online. And if they want to talk to me or Mr. Sabharwal in private, they can always call us up and we try to be with them as far as we can. Sleep deprivation is always there. And as I told you, there are no professional resources there. I will not talk about the disease, but I will give a few tips to the family caregivers, because I have myself been a family caregiver, and that time nobody knew of Alzheimer's disease and nobody wanted to come in and meet my mother also. And it was a very difficult time. So you should first of all seek support from other caregivers. Join our Asha WhatsApp group. You can join in as a volunteer, you can join in as a caregiver, or if you had been a past caregiver, you have the experience, you can join in as a doctor to give your own suggestions, and you can join in as a psychologist also. So we are open to all who are aware of Alzheimer's disease and the plight of their caregivers. So second point I will put in and I will stress upon it, take care of your own health, which I did not, and it was havoc for me. Accept offers of help. अगर कोई आके आपका रिश्तेदार कहता है कि भी मैं आपकी क्या हेल्प कर सकता हूँ, मैं आपको हेल्प करना चाहता हूँ, don't feel small in front of them, don't feel that I cannot do anything. Nobody can do this caregiving all by themselves. You do need help, whether a family help or a professional help. And suggest to them that what help they can provide. And don't even hesitate if you need financial help. Tell them that I am in need of financial help. Maybe you can help that. If you cannot, I'm okay with it. Communicate very, very effectively with the doctors. Don't build stories. Just make down the points and tell to the doctors, because Alzheimer's caregivers, they have a long story because they need to talk to people, and they have nobody except the doctor to listen to them. It is a very hard work, harder than your studies and harder than raising your families. But please take respite. Call your friend, ask them to stay there for a little while, and you go and take a walk. Watch out for the signs of depression and don't delay getting professional help. If you feel that you are getting depressed, just take a professional help. Call us. We are just a call away. Call Mr. Sabarwal. He's a group member, and we are all there to give you help. One very good help he suggested to one of the family caregivers. She says, my mother shouts a lot and she talks a lot. So he suggested that, do you have cotton in your house? Said, yes, I have cotton in my house. And she was wondering why he is asking for cotton. So he said, take some cotton and put it in your ears. There is no harm in ignoring those abuses and ignoring those anxieties of the patient. Organize and keep all the medical records updated, and make sure, please don't hesitate in that all your legal documents are in order. Keep talking to your siblings, keep talking to your relatives, and talk to your children also that, yes, this is the decision I'm going to take. Help me out. And if you need any help legally, yes, Asha is there. And always pat yourself in the evening that you are doing one of the toughest jobs. There are professional caregivers also. They are hired from the various agencies. Sometimes the domestic workers are trained to be caregivers out of compassion and extra money. My mother had a cook with her who was there with her for the last 30 years till she was alive. And he became her caregiver just out of compassion and some extra money. But yes, he could never identify any emergency because he was untrained, and especially not trained for dementia at all. And another girl, she was a domestic worker, but I trained to her be a dementia caregiver. We are open to train the professional caregivers specialized in dementia care. Our group of caregivers in our residential facility, they were all untrained, hired from the agencies, and we trained them to the core that today they are able to, take care of the dementia patients and inform me about the emergency after they have taken care of that. The other day, one of the patients fainted, and she called me up and told me that, ma'am, her blood sugar was low. I gave her chocolate and now she's fine. And now her blood sugar is this. At that time, her blood sugar was below 70. So that's the kind of training we have given them. We do get professional caregivers from various agencies, but I'm very sorry to say I have not found a single caregiver hired from the agencies who are particularly trained in dementia care. This area needs to be really, really looked into, and we are open to train them. We are open to train them. Just note down the signs of burnout, the family caregivers, please. Even the professional caregivers, they also get the burnout. So withdrawal from the friends and other loved ones, withdrawal from your own family, feeling irritable, hopeless, and helpless. Changes in appetite to weight gain or weight loss. I gained a lot of weight. And later somebody told me that probably you were depressed at that time looking at your mother. Loss of interest in activities which you once enjoyed, sleep deprivation, and getting sick more often. I was always training my back. One patient of ours, she's always running into spells of crying. So these are the signs of burnout, and they need to be given help if you identify them, or if you cannot, then they should come and ask for help. There is no harm in seeking help. Care of the caregivers. You know, this subject is extremely close to my heart. Give them respite. There was nobody to give me respite, even for 1 hour. Breaks, take a break. Go out with your family. Show gratitude. The others around the caregiver and the patient, the siblings, the relatives, the friend, they should show gratitude. Patient will not. So show gratitude, appreciate their work, whether it is a professional caregiver or whether it is a family caregiver. If a husband is caring for his wife, don't only come for a cup of tea and talk about your forgotten times. Appreciate them, that you are doing a wonderful thing. And believe me, it is a very thin line between empathy and sympathy. Don't show sympathy, please. They don't need sympathy, they need empathy. So show gratitude, appreciate them, and listen to them. If they are telling the same story again and again, just listen to them. They need to talk. And sometimes change the focus from the patient to them, to the caregiver. Like in our facility, we have professional caregivers. Every day I ask them, how is Mr. X, how is Mrs. B? And take the whole vitals and all the reporting and everything. Well, that is my focus towards the patient. What about my caregivers? They also get a burnout. So slowly I realized that they get tired. They are fed up of this routine. So what we have started doing now, very recently, that we play tambola with them. We tell them that today will be a tambola game. We don't pre-plan it. So we have a tambola and I pay for their tickets. I don't want them to part with their income. And we collect about 700, 800, 1,000 rupees. And then we play. Now they are all expert in playing. Earlier, I had to tell them what does line and house and everything. And at the end of 15, 20 minutes, they are a different personality. They're bubbling with energy, they're bubbling with joy, sharing their and they are so different. I can see the expression on them. And during their resting hours, we ask them about their families back in home, how they are facing, about the interaction between their own peers, because they have their own issues. And COVID, again, it played a real havoc. We had to train them, we have to teach them. All of them, we had to put them in one facility, in a hostel. And when they are living away from the family, you cannot adjust to strangers so easily. So they were always at war with us. Slowly we settled that also. And now we care for them, and we do arrange a dance party once in 2 months, once in 3 months, where nobody is senior, nobody is junior, nobody is a boss. We all stand and we dance to the best tunes. Besides lowering the stress of the caregivers, music really helps to calm the patient. And if anybody is facing eating problem, bathing problem, put on a beautiful music which they like, maybe old songs, maybe classical music, and just sing with them, and you will see that they will eat without any hassle. They will take bath without any hassle. because it lifts up the mood of the patient and also of the caregiver, and it definitely eases the challenge of bathing and eating, the most difficult challenges faced by all caregivers, whether they are professional or they are uh, family caregivers. Now, music therapy has been documented in the American journals, and they say that if you put on the music with the headphone, not with the earphone, because it blocks the extra sound from around, and it really works wonders for the patients. Try it and you will find the difference. Along with this, I have not mentioned here, baby therapy helps a lot. It calms down the patient and it gives a little respite to the caregiver to have a hot cup of tea. Give them a small doll which looks like a baby, and they will play with them. They'll put them on your shoulder and try to feed them and talk to them, because that they are connected with their children who were once very young and whom they had given birth. So that's reconnecting to them, to their children. Seek help at Hope Ekasha, where hope is always alive. We'll be glad to help you solve your problems and be there for you. Seek Hope Ekasha for help, support, advice, guidance, and assistance. Thank you very much for your very patient hearing. I'm open to the questions after the session as Mr. Sabharwal decides. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sushma, for touching on this very important subject of caregivers, and also really appreciate your opening up this platform for the various caregivers to engage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll now introduce the next speaker for today, Wing Commander Sabharwal. And then, like Dr. Sushma said, after his talk, we can take questions. So now I move on to introducing Wing Commander Sabharwal. He is no stranger to several of us who are a part of the Rotary group, as well as to those who are members of the Caregivers WhatsApp group. Nevertheless, I will quickly, give you his introduction. Wing Commander Sabharwal, he is a postgraduate of Aeronautics Engineering from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He served in the Indian Air Force for close to 26 years. He worked on various fighter aircrafts, namely Hunter, MiG-21s, MiG-29s, and after serving as chief engineer in the operation base, he sought voluntary retirement so as to be able to pursue his passion for teaching and training. So for more than 2 decades, Sabi has actually been a visiting professor in various academic institutes, both engineering and management institutes. In addition, he's also been training on life skills, conducting programs in the area of quality, not just in these academic institutes, but in the corporates as well. So he looked after his wife, who was suffering from Alzheimer's, and this was for almost 12 years. So after her death, he decided to devote his time to spreading the awareness of this disease. He has delivered more than 100 lectures. He's also written 2 books, and several of you know that last year we had launched a book on caregivers that was written jointly by Sabi as well as Dr. Soumya. He is an active Rotarian of our club, and as most of you know, he is also the founder chairman of this ADRA group, Alzheimer's and Dementia Rotary Action Group. Welcome you, Sabi.
Thank you, Suman, for that introduction. Now, while I'm sharing screen, I want to okay. Uh, Take care of yourself. I thought of this because I like to go back. The year was 2015, about a year and a half before she died, more than 10 years. One day morning at night time, I had a difficulty in breathing, and about 6 o'clock, my son had to take me to emergency in a hospital. I was put on a oxygen. It was around 11:30 when I opened my eyes and I saw myself in a hospital bed, and I asked what had happened. Later on, the doctors told me after the investigations they found I had been having a breathing problem for last about 5 months. I was ignoring, and they found my lung capacity had reduced to 50%. And as Dr. Sushma also mentioned, as a caregiver, and this happened about so many years back, there were not very many guides, not very many people to tell. But that day, when I was lying in the hospital on the bed, I thought to myself, Sabi, if you conk off, who will look after Kanta? I knew children are there, but nobody could have looked after the way a spouse or the primary caregiver could do. That was the day I decided, I told myself, look, I'll not die before Kanta. With that background, that form has been forming the basis of my telling every caregiver, look after yourself. And my portion of the talk will be totally different from what Dr. Sushma has covered, no duplication, will dwell upon look after yourself. Because once you look after yourself, then you are in a position to tell others to look after you. It is like somebody says, many people says, I think I am losing my memory. And in Alzheimer's, we say, if you are aware you are losing your memory, you are not losing your memory. Simple as that. So the caregiver has to look after himself or herself. Fine. Now, I'll just go through the challenging behavior which a caregiver goes through. The patient loses important things. The Alzheimer patient performs unsafe tasks, makes repeated calls and contacts to your children and others that you are not looking after, getting lost in the known surroundings, and making up stories. Now, this sort of behavior, you can understand, will cause a lot of irritation to a caregiver. Then we have another set of challenging behavior, refusing to do anything, eating, bathing, anything, bad mouthing you to others, saying you are not looking after and all that. A caregiver feels so bad about it. Resisting care, swearing and cursing, shouting and yelling. Now, this sort of behavior induces anger in the caregiver, right? So at times he is irritated, he or she at times anger builds in. Look at something more. A patient starts throwing things. There's no solid sleep time. They sleep during the day and the whole night they are awake. They refuse to eat or drink. At times, feeding her breakfast, lunch, dinner for 1 hour, time wasn't a problem. My arm started aching. Then undressing anywhere causes a lot of frustration. Then the next stage, patient is not sick but feels sick. That makes you sick. They're striking out at others. Hitting at times happens. Seeing things and for people, hallucination starts happening. There is somebody in the room, I'll not go there. Falls and injuries and infections. You feel helpless. Now, these are the stages: frustration, irritation, anger, helplessness. All these build up in a caregiver. So, what happens when these feelings are there in a caregiver? And then, this is something like this. When the leaf starts falling, a stage comes, the whole tree is barren. This happens to the brain. The neuron starts dying slowly, slowly, slowly. And you can imagine, in my case, for about 12 years, gradually shedding. A stage come, a patient, my wife just couldn't do anything. Now, when you see that degradation day by day, no chance happening, what happens? The feelings are on the left, you're feeling alone on the cliff, you don't know whether to jump out, finish your life or no. That stage comes, you hold yourself, or then the picture, you hold your head, you don't know what to do, or onto the right, feel like pulling hairs. Of course, I couldn't do, I didn't have hair, but I'm sure Dr. Sushma might have felt that way. Or at the bottom, you feel like shouting at others, whosoever comes. Somebody, my son one day came, Daddy, how are you? I was about to say, what the hell, are you bothered? How am I? Are you bothered? So even a well-meaning person's initiatives. So these are few of the things which I have gone through, and I'm sure every caregiver goes through it. Now, what you have to do? You have to change it. What you are in reality, you see in the mirror, not your same thing. You got to change, you got to think that things are not so bad. This man is thinking 30 years back when he graduated from the college. So the whole thinking has to change. The caregiver himself or herself, what is happening, but has to change. And how to change, I'll basically dwell on that portion. Now, this is what I say. A person is stressed. But you got to look at it from a different angle, from the back side. Start seeing DESSERTS. When it's stressed, you start looking from a different angle, it becomes deserts. Well, it may appear to be difficult, but I have gone through it. Last 2 years, I found it somewhere. This poster I set somewhere, and I took it as a guide to myself. It was in a different context. I used to give, as I said, corporate training and all that. I was talking about stress building up in a corporate sector. This was taken from there, but now I find this is the most useful thing for a caregiver. How to do it? Now let me come on to that. Now, all those challenging behavior where a person feels irritated, worked up, helpless, and all that. Now, people used to ask me, Savi, you are doing a great job. I used to ask, do I have a choice? No caregiver has got a choice, right? Now, once that is there, the next step is important. It is how you do what you do that makes a difference. You have to do it. You have to look after the patient. You got no choice. If you got a choice, you wouldn't be a caregiver, right? But once you are a caregiver, you got no choice. It's how you do what you do that makes a difference. Earlier, I used to say difference to the patient. Today, I first time added it to make a difference to your life. Because once you are fit, mentally, physically, socially, in balance, then you'll be able to look after the patient in a better manner without getting worked up, without wasting energies on fictitious things. And how do we go? I've got 5 practical tips. First is accept the reality. Caregivers undergo a lot of guilt. I underwent, in one of my books, the first chapter is overcome the guilt feeling. Why it happened? Did I do something? Or I am not looking after? Dr. Sushma said, give a pat to yourself. I did everything, but at the end of the day, I couldn't probably help her. So I used to feel guilty. I'm no good. I don't know. I have not done proper things. So in the bargain, he used to feel even more bad. So first thing, accept the reality. What has happened has happened. What I'm capable of doing, I'm doing. Nothing can be undone. So once you overcome that guilt feeling, accept the reality. Okay, the patient has to go through this situation. Whatever little I can do, I can do. So once you come to that stage, believe me, the stress levels will go down. So this is a first step. Second, it requires a lot of patience. When I first time read the book, that time about 8-10 years back, I read a book. the Alzheimer patient is like a child. You feed the child, you tell the child 10 times. But I realize that every passing year, the child improves. Whereas in this case, the patient goes down. So it's childlike, but not a child. So that is where the frustration builds. I used to say, you've been 30 years, we've been together, you are doing it. Why can't you do it now? So that patience has to come in. The caregiver has to develop a patience. Deterioration will happen, not a child, childlike. So that will overcome a lot of frustrations. Third thing, Dr. Sushma talked about empathy, not sympathy. Now, the patient is no more the person you have known. Like I said, she used to do things and now she can't do. Or irritation, frustration. Why the hell can't you do? Are you testing? Do you think I'm mad? And believe me, at one stage, I had written the posters. She is not doing it intentionally. In my bedroom, in my corridor, in my drawing room, in my dining room. Kids said, Papa, what is this? I used to look at that poster 20 times in a day. She is not doing it on purpose. And that changed a lot of, I got a lot of confidence, a courage, a cool mind, because that instead of sympathizing her, she can't do, let me feed. That sympathy changed to empathy. She is not a person. She is not doing deliberately. She is not testing me. She is not troubling me. So once that thing comes, so the caregiver has to bring in that element. Fourth, again in my book, there is a chapter on count blessings. When she fell down, broke her hip bone, my son, with whom I was staying, he told my elder son who was in Hyderabad, he says, this has happened. So my son called me, Papa, something bad has happened. I said, thank God it's only this. Hip is broken. He was taken aback. He didn't ask me, but he rang up my son. He says, is Papa all right? He's waving something. He's gone mad. So my younger son asked me, Papa, did you tell this to elder brother? I say, yes. He said, what do you mean? I said, look, a fall can result either in a hip breakage or the spine breakage. Thank God it's hip broken. If it was spine, things would have been much different. So this is when I say it's a blessing that she only broke the hip and not the spine. So there are many times, the small incidences. In my book, I have counted about 10 times, 10 blessings. Small things happen. You see something good in that. So then you won't be cursing yourself or the patient. So it's very important. Believe me, God is not partial to you. If he has given you some trouble, in between, he'll give some moments, good moments. Like when she went into the nursing home, Nightingales, my granddaughter was born. A gap of 15 days. And when I used to come from the nursing home in the morning and evening depressed, the nanny used to put Veda into my arms. Papa, have this girl. Look at the God. So for next half an hour, used to change. So the caregiver has to look at these moments, which could be moments of blessings. And fifth, self before others. As I said, by lying in the hospital, I told Kanu, don't worry, I'll not die before you. No, I'll tell you, when you travel by air, the briefing comes. In case of emergency, pressure drop, the mask will fall. First put on your mouth and then onto your attendants. So this is what I mean, self before others. You got to, caregiver has to look after his health, physical health, mental health, social health, which is very, very important. Because when I was there, I came to Bangalore, I thought I've got a huge circle of friends. But slowly as the disease started, I couldn't visit them, they stopped coming. And I suddenly felt lonely. That was the worst thing. So that is where I say, you decide that you look after yourself before you look after the patient. That determination has to be built up. So after this, 3 things. Never forget to take a break. I remember I started going for 2 hours in engineering college. From C.V. Ramanagar, I used to go to Martha Ali. Car used to come, travel half an hour, 2 hours talk, come back. Initially, I used to come back and immediately enter the maid. How is she? It didn't make a difference to her in those 3 hours, but it made a lot of difference to me. And again, when the things are very bad, 4 years, I hadn't attended any of the relatives' functions or something. One day, my son said, Papa, we are giving you one night's break. So I took an evening flight, afternoon flight, went to Delhi, attended the night function. Next day, first flight, I reached back. As I went home, how is your mama? He said, the way you had left it. But then the kids told, oh my God, Papa's tremendous change. My batteries were charged. So the caregiver has to take a daily break, a weekly break, a monthly break. Nothing will happen to the patient in those small times. But believe me, the caregivers get charged. Number one, talk it out. You see, when you are undergoing stress and all that, it's like a pressure cooker. If the whistle doesn't blow, the cooker will burst. And this is what happens to the caregivers. There are nervous breakdowns. Actually, how I joined Rotary, because I had a sort of nervous breakdown. My kids fixed up a meeting with a counselor. She turned out to be Timo's wife, Sudha. She told me, join, and that's how I got into Rotary. So talking it out is very important when stress is building up to anybody. Dr. Sushma mentioned they may not listen, but from the cooker, you don't know where the steam is going. It's getting wasted, but it is going out. So you talk to anybody, friends, relatives, anybody, vomit out. It's like vomiting. You vomit out, you feel comfortable. It's exactly that feeling. And finally, let out a cry. There was a day she was a problem. Nasogastric tube was to be fitted into that. She used to pull out. Doctor said something. So they said 3 options. We chose one option. And that day evening when I came from hospital, I was sitting 7 o'clock dark when the kids came. So my son asked, Papa, what happened? First time I started crying. He let me cry. And later on I said, they are tied up your mother's arms like a cow and buffalo. There's nothing wrong when after talking out at times, you're human beings. It's one of the emotions. Cry it out. You feel lighter. I think I would have done 3-4 times, and I've mentioned in my book that there's no harm, right? So these are taking a break, talking it out, and letting out a cry is what keeps a mental and social health of a caregiver. Physical health, he or she has to do walks and all that. And remember, Dr. Sushma also said you are not alone. Look, how many people are there? Start reading. I can read 16. There may be more. They are caregivers, they are parents, grandparents, children, neighbors, you name it. People on the roadside, you make him stop. Oh, look, listen to me. Believe me, except 2-3%, remaining 90% will stand and listen what you have to say. You just let out and feel comfortable. And join the support group. Don't stand idle. I am grateful Dr. Sushma remembered that plugging the ears things. Lot many things come. You think you're the first one, but when the caregiver says, I have gone through, suddenly you get a feeling, oh my God, I'm not alone. That feeling is very great, right? And finally, these are the 2 books. Handling Alzheimer's with Courage came about 4 years back, published in Hindi and 9 other Indian languages. And the right book is Dr. Soumya Hegde, who gave me support during those 8 years of my wife's problems. She's a geriatric psychiatrist in Bangalore. So this book has come about 3 months back. Now, anybody in the group wants his books, send me a message. Don't bother about money. I'll send you a card. I'll send you the books. Once you receive that, the card says, whatever money you want to give, it'll go into a trust for the Alzheimer patients. So feel free. I have been sending the books. And believe me, rather than getting the cost of the books, I can announce in this group that ADRAG for the sale of only the second book, which I sent to about 70 of my friends, relatives and all that, I have collected about 1 lakh rupees. That is coming to the ADRAG fund. So this is what I had to share with everybody. And now, please look after caregivers. With folded hands, I'm saying, look after yourself. Now, we are open to questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sabi. Those who would like to ask questions, please come forward. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
I am Mr. Basu, attending this meeting. I would like to ask that whether the professional caregivers, suppose I am looking after actually my mother-in-law and me and my wife, and we are working. So is it possible or does it work if you hire a professional caregiver? We have a problem now because of the COVID, so we do not have anyone. We are looking after her. But things becomes normal. Is it possible to have a professional caregiver available?
Dr.
Does it
Sushma,
work?
you may answer that.
Yes, Mr. Basu, a professional caregiver can be hired from a trusted agency. Can get in touch with me. You can contact me or our NGO, and we will give you the name of the contact person. Once you have chosen a caregiver and you feel that your mother-in-law is comfortable with that person, because the personal rapport is very essential, you know. Sometimes you don't get good vibes from some patients and then you have to change that person. So if you get a normal, okay person, then our NGO can train that caregiver according to your mother's needs. Because you will not find any caregiver hired from any agency who are trained to take care of dementia patients. It is a sorry state of affairs, but yes, that's the reality. And we don't mind training.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions, please? Okay, Ruchi has asked me a copy of this. Ruchi, on my number, you will have to give me your email, your residential address. So these have to be sent by registered post.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Ajit has also asked.
Yeah, my WhatsApp number, you can get it. I'll put it on the group. Okay. If you remember, if you can note down 9035 000 140. 9035 000 140. Send me your address. I'll send the books. It'll take about a week by postal delivery. That's the safest. Okay. Yeah. Suman has already put that number. Please note, send me a message. I'll dispatch within a day or so.
Yeah.
Two different numbers have come zero. Is it 0004 or 0040?
0001 9035 000 140. I'm a man with plenty of zeros. There are 5 zeros in my 10-digit number.
Thank you, sir. Because two different numbers have come, I'm not really sure. But thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, Ruchi Makhija has
Yes, ma'am.
asked me that how can we share these details of how and where to train.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Ruchi, if you are staying in Delhi, you can get in touch with me and we will tell you how we can train your caregivers. I don't know for whom you are asking.
I'm asking for my mom. And actually, although we are basically Delhiites, but we are in Chennai now.
Okay. And yes, we can do some online training for your caregiver. get in touch with me on my WhatsApp number 98-100-30302. I will repeat 98-100-30302. My team will get back to you, and we will just sort out certain things, that how and when we can train your caregiver.
So kind of you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, also, just one point I forgot to mention in my presentation. Me and my whole team, we have compiled an FAQ for Alzheimer's disease. These are the questions which have been asked from me for years together from my caregivers on the telephone. And those questions we have compiled into a book that is known as FAQ of Alzheimer's disease. The second edition was released in 2018. And now we are ready with the third edition with all the questions which have been coming during the COVID times. You can just give me your numbers or addresses. We can mail it to them. And I think we have a soft copy of that also. We can just send it to you by email also.
Yeah, any other questions, or then otherwise we'll wind up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
You know how, as a family, how to decide whether a professional care center is what our patient needs, or whether he or she would be better off at home. Maybe will not be able to get the kind of professional help that she's getting. Like my mother-in-law is in Dr. Chawla's care center right now, but we are looking at the option of bringing her home. So,
Okay,
but very confused. How do we decide what is really best for her?
Okay,
What is
Shalini,
better for her?
I'll take that question because I've gone through that stage. About 3 months, 3 months before she fell down and broke her hip and hip replacement. After that, she couldn't walk and she had to be put into the full-time care home. My children had been saying, Papa, stage has come. I think Mama will be better off in the Nightingale Medical Trust, where we had gone. But you know, she had forgotten everything, no responses. But when she used to walk whole day, moment I used to say, Kanu, she used to stop. Now that was a hang up with me, attachment or something. I used to say, kids, she still responds to my voice. So I kept on. But I realized that was my mistake, right? So had I put her into the Nightingale Medical Trust, definitely she wouldn't have had a fall. Her remaining 1.5 years, which was bedridden, probably would not have been there. So that decision has to be taken only by the caregivers. Like even my children gave me a hint, I didn't accept it. The patient cannot say, all you got to see. At that time, I was slightly more selfish. Okay, I'll have my wife at home with me. So that's a very, very emotions have to be left out. I think no doctor, no geriatric psychiatrist can answer that question for you. You have to make a judicious decision. But let me tell you, all these care centers will definitely give a better care to the patient than any dedicated caregiver can do. Like I, having done for 8 years, I thought I know everything. But moment she went there, I realized she is being looked after in a much better fashion. So I hope that answers your question. Decision has to be yours. But believe me, the full-time care center will definitely look after in a much better fashion because there are different nurses, doctors. Lot when you are, there's not one person looking after the patient 24/7 for months together. So it changes lot many factors. I'm sure Dr. Sushma can probably corroborate that.
Yes, Shalini's mother-in-law is staying with us for the since its inception, since 2019, she's with us. She's a wonderful, charming old lady, and she has her mental faculties quite sound after she has been admitted to our center. She's doing well, but of course, age is taking its toll, and she's a patient of vascular dementia.
Okay.
But yes, as you rightly said, the family has to take a decision. We cannot be a family. We can only be family-like. And we are very fond of her. She's very fond of us. And as and when, Shalini, whenever you decide, we are with you. And till Auntie is with us, we are happy, she's happy.
I think, Shalini, I like to add, one of my colleagues' mother, they could not handle her at home. So they took her there for a week. The lady didn't like things over there, came back home. And within 4 days, that lady decided I was better in the care home. She went back to Nightingales. So probably, Shalini, if you feel, as Dr. Sushma says, she is in a sound condition, bring her back home for a week or 10 days and 15 days, and then probably you can decide. You may try it out. I don't say you try it out. That could be another option for you. But ultimately, the decision has to be yours. But keep in mind, day by day, the situation will deteriorate. So if you bring her home, maybe after some time, yeah.
Sound condition physically.
Yeah,
She's
okay.
brave, but yes, she is moving about. She takes her meals herself.
Fine.
But yes, Alzheimer's is in advanced state. Our cognitive retraining and rehabilitation work, that is really helping her to improve her memory. And I'm surprised to see that she's making friends. After lunch, she doesn't want to go and sleep because she says, points to another person who has been a recent friend and says, let her go and then I will also go. So that's a very positive sign. And I think, Shalini, you can make your own decision. Okay.
Yes, yes. Thank you. This has been very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My husband is also listening in. That's her son.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just because this is a question mark in our minds all the time, would we be
It will
causing
remain
more harm? Yeah, then good.
It will remain a question mark always, because
yeah.
Home, there'll be a question mark. Was she better there when she's with you? There'll be always a question mark that will she be better at home? Decision, again, as Mr. Sabharwal said, the decision is all rests on the family. But yes, for us it is okay. We are taking good care of us. You will agree
To all
with
the
us.
caregivers, I like to say another thing. Ask questions. Like you said, all these days you didn't ask that question. Please ask a question. So there I remember my professor in Indian Institute of Science. He used to say, no question is ever stupid. Answer can be. I may not be able to give you the right answer, but your question is a genuine question. So please don't keep the questions to you. Like today you raised that question, whether you would have, obviously we said you got to take a decision, but probably you wouldn't have known that ultimately it's your decision. So all caregivers, there are lot many questions. Please do ask. You may not get the right answer, but you will get some answer.
You should open.
I have a question, please. I have a question, Dr. Ruchi here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll just.
Hello.
Yes, Ruchi, your question, please.
Yes, I wanted to check. My mother is a patient of dementia, and her bigger problem than forgetfulness is her anger, her attitude, her anger towards all the caregivers that we have. Her behavior with me, and she's my mom. with me, and the help, any help who looks after her is very, very angry, to say the least, at all times. She's uncomfortable, she's lonely, she just keeps lashing out for everything.
You see,
Can I answer that? Can I answer that?
yeah,
Please.
please.
Yeah. Ruchi, this is another stage of Alzheimer's patients who lose control on their moods and they become very angry. Why they are angry? Because they want to do certain things independently, which they cannot. The signal of doing the things and seeing that something is wrong, and the signal of not being able to do that, that is broken in between. And that is why the only way they can communicate with you is their anger. That is the only language. Like a baby has only one language, and that is crying. Similarly, caregiver patients of Alzheimer's disease, they have got only one language, and that is anger or throwing the things. So talk to your neurologist. For the time being, he will give her some antipsychotic medicines which do not put her off to sleep, but calm her down. And once she has been calmed down and able to adjust to the caregiver, then you can slowly taper off that medicine and in consultation with your neurologist. But yes, the antipsychotic medicine, they do help. And this is a stage in the progression of Alzheimer's disease. So number one, accept it. Yes, this will come. How long, we don't know. But you have to take consultation from your neurologist in Chennai and give the medicine, and she'll be much better, calmer. You will be better off. Okay.
And Ruchi,
Thank
I like to add
Sure.
this. All these symptoms last for 3-4 months. After that, she'll not be angry. She'll start doing something else. So it's probably, that's blessing in disguise. The anger will stop. Something else will prop up. So that is when the different stages of the brains starts getting deteriorated.
Yes.
Then something else will override this. Okay. So
Her
anger
anger
problem.
issues have continued for last 4-5 years now.
Okay. So now anger has become dominating. Something else will become more dominating. This is, you just got to accept the anger. You can't do anything about it other than feeding her medicines, which again may or may not be really effective. Yeah.
Antipsychotic medicines will help calm down.
Right. Okay, doctor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
will help, definitely.
Yeah.
And that will make the atmosphere much peaceful, and you'll be happy that your mother is peaceful.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Doctor. That's so
May I
encouraging.
just say something, if that's okay?
Yeah, Geetika,
Yes.
please.
So my mother had this issue as well, and this happened, this really got aggravated during the lockdown. She was very agitated, very angry, and we went to a neurologist finally, and the medicines made a huge difference, huge difference.
They do.
I just wanted to add that from my experience, I saw how much of a difference the medicines made.
Thank you.
They
I've
do
been
make a
taking her on
difference.
medicines for a long time, but nothing seems to be helping. Again, of course, I've recently, this week, started going to all the doctors all over again, trying to get her retested. But her mood swings, she makes me cancel her tests. She doesn't go for them. So it's very difficult to even get those tests done. And then, be able to have those reports to take her to the doctor.
Maybe she needs a cocktail of medicines.
That's really
Okay.
sad.
Any other question, please?
I had a similar question to this. So my grandfather has been suffering from Alzheimer's since almost 6 years now, and he has stopped communicating altogether. There is absolutely no verbal communication or communication of any emotions or anything at all. There are only two things that he seems to respond to. If we clap in front of him, that is the only thing he copies. Or if he's in pain due to anything, that is when he would jump just for a second and react to that. So I'm not able to understand how to actually cater to that, because he has been on medications, but his communication has completely diminished in the past 1 year.
So that is a loss of speech. You see, the various faculties, the loss of indication, loss of speech, loss of memory, loss of recognition, it happens. So he has reached that stage where he will not be able to speak anything, right? So
Okay.
it's how you understand a child who is growing sign language or start feeling. At times you can't even really make out what he wants it. So this is, I mean, I have lived with that sort of situation, and probably if Dr. Sushma can add, because you see, at times when I say these things, many people say, sir, you are scaring us. Well, I'm not scaring, I'm putting the facts. You be mentally prepared that this situation will be there. You have to learn with a way how to do it. And a book on handling caregivers, most of these situations have been covered in that, right?
Yeah.
So
I'll,
yeah.
You are Ruchi. No, you're
Malika.
Malika Manocha.
Okay, Malika, you just said that he responds to only two things. One is clapping, and one is he responds to pain. Okay.
Yes.
Now, if he is responding to clapping, it will take away a lot of energy from you. You also clap with him. Okay, he will respond. Just brush your memory and find out which song or which mantra or any chalisa or anything which he was very fond of reciting. And most Indian men, they recite Hanuman Chalisa almost religiously every day, 3-4 times a day. Okay, so when he's clapping, sit right in front of him and make an eye contact and start reciting Hanuman Chalisa. You will see that he will speak the Hanuman Chalisa. I'm just giving you an example, it may be anything else also. It can be a film song also. So they will start speaking, Here I'll give you a small example. One of our patients who had genetic frontotemporal dementia, when she came to us, she had totally lost her vocabulary. Totally. She was not speaking anything. And before she went into hemiparesis, she had a brain hemorrhage. She was speaking small sentences by repeatedly speaking in front of her, And we used to leave the sentence incomplete and she used to complete it. Definitely from her childhood, from her young age, and that really helps, but it takes away a lot of energy from yourself. So gear up for that. If you can do that, it's something very good you will do.
I'll definitely try that method as well. Thank you so much, ma'am. This has been very, very helpful.
Try that and give me a feedback.
Absolutely. I would definitely get back to you on this.
Yeah.
Wing Commander Sabharwal, I would like to just add one thing, like you said, that due to your attachment, you didn't want your wife to go away to the place where you wanted, where she would have been better looked after professionally. And there's an emotional part to that also. Like I remember my mother would go to the daycare center and she was very happy there. But when she got tired and she needed to go home, she would always keep calling for me, even though she had almost stopped talking. So I don't know whether that emotional, because she had never stayed, because in Shalini's mother-in-law's case, she's been there for some time in the center, so daycare center. So when she goes home, she may miss that and she may want to come back again. But of course, the decision will be entirely the families. But part is also there, whether they will miss their family. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Seema.
Ruchi, you have asked about the online activities. Any online activities to engage her, as she is lonely and does not like games and TV and wants human company.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a program, Hope at Home. And it is being conducted by our volunteers, by our psychologists. And they fix up they chart out the whole program for them. And they are available with the patient, along with the family member or the caregiver, at least twice in a week. I think Rita is there. Rita, can you explain that how often you can be available on the Hope at Home? Or you can WhatsApp me. Rita Sehgal is also in the group of our volunteer group, support group. So you can just put up this question and we will get back to you. We have about 10 enrollments in that, and 12. And they all are enjoying the activities at home, which are designed specifically for their capability and their interest. So you can get in touch with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think, any other question? Well, I think on behalf of Rotary Bangalore Cantonment and ADRAC Group, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Sushma, and all the caregivers who found time to attend to this program. Because otherwise, almost everybody thinks, oh my God, how can I leave the patient and attend to listen to that what they wanted to say, right? So thank you very much, everybody who is there. Honestly, me and Dr. Sushma look for an audience because we feel like that unless every week I give a talk and talk to some people, I feel uncomfortable. I get constipated. So it's one of those things. I think everybody, thank you very much. It has been a very useful session. And all those who have not joined can join WhatsApp group started by Dr. Sushma, which already I think is about 80 members. That's no limit. It will be a useful thing. Thank you very much. Our numbers are there. You can personally send WhatsApp messages or normal messages. We'll get back to each one because I think we have reached a stage where if we can help even a single person, even for 5-6%, I think our day is made. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Tali.
you.
Thank you
Thank
to
you.
Dr. Sushma.
Thank you, Suman, for anchoring.